Welcome to the Unmuted Podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm the host of the podcast, and we have a fantastic episode today. It's called Feedback Obsession, the Secret Weapon for Fast Track Career Growth. Yes, they are linked, and we will get into that shortly. So before we do, I just want to mention that our website is launching very, very soon. All of our episodes are on our website, ScaleHR.com, also on our YouTube channel as well. And so it's really important that you hit the bell so that you get notified when a new episode is dropped. I know people are busy these days. They follow a lot of different streams and social media platforms. And so just hit the bell so you'll be notified of new episodes that are dropped usually every Thursday morning. And we talk about all things HR, talent, HR tech, world of work, and anything that touches those topics. So this one here is actually really important because it's talking about career growth, which I think has been an issue or topic for some time now. And I just want to make just a couple of points first, and then we'll bring in our guest, Stefano Grossi of Branco. And so the first topic is really about the growth gap. And so I think it's safe to say that everyone wants career growth, but most people wait for it until it happens instead of actively building it. Promotion, stretch roles, new opportunities, we always talk about them like they magically appear. Well, that doesn't really happen that way. In reality, is a process of iteration, and one of the fastest ways to accelerate that process is by becoming obsessed with feedback. And so the second point, that I want to make is feedback is fuel, judgment. And so I think there's, a lot of our viewers will be nodding their heads here because feedback is often gets framed as criticism, right? So, but high performers treat it as fuel. They seek it out constantly. They're always asking for feedback. They're always curious about their blind spot, and they build systems to close skill gaps quickly. Today, we're going to talk about how shifting your relationship with feedback can completely change the trajectory of your career. So there's a lot to talk about, and I'm really glad to have Stefano Grossi of Toronto-based Branco here today. So, Stefano, welcome to the Unmuted Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. I want to welcome you here first, and before we get into our question, obviously, I think we've known each other for about a year now, maybe just under a year. I know that you started a fantastic company called Branco, so maybe you can give our viewers a bit of a overview of what you do.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you're correct. I'm the co-founder of Branco.ai. And it's an AI platform built to make the feedback super easy and probably the only platform where the feedback is automated, continuous, and actionable. The idea is to create alignment without having to have a million town halls and a million nudges. And I wanted to build this because I spent the last 20 years in building and scaling tech company. The last one was FreshBooks. I spent there almost 7 years, and I've seen the pattern again and again. And as you said, when you see people that grow the fastest and when you see people that really are in the groove, is normally the one that create their own learning loop. And we built Branco because I think we can do that for everyone. Like the feedback system that exists today are a little bit too slow, too biased, time bias, recency bias, and too performative. So we're trying to fix in that by creating a very, very structured, real-time feedback loop that helps people actually get better. And it's all done in Slack or Teams. So it's the same tools you use every day. And so you don't have to click, go open another application and do stuff like that, or getting a million nudges or reminder. It just comes there. And again, you don't even need to trigger it. It's just automatic. In fact, if you Google automatic or automated continuous feedback, I think we are still the first link appearing there. And we do think that continuous feedback, if it's not automated, is actually not continuous at all. And that goes with continuous performance management as well. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
So that's a tough go. And obviously, it's a very difficult space to be in, but I think you're on the right track because obviously, to your point, when it comes to recency bias, I think that is a pretty big challenge when people are busy all day, yet they're trying to somehow, evaluate, but also improve performance, of the employees, and they're trying to do it with nothing really. Like it's just they're going based on a recollection of memory, which obviously is getting worse and worse with so much being thrown at us. So I think obviously leveraging AI for its power, I think is really smart. And so I'm really encouraged by what you guys are doing. But let's get right into the topic here. And so I guess my first question is, why is feedback such a powerful lever for career growth, and why do so many people underuse it?
That's
It's a powerful question, big question.
when it's continuous, when you're able to have that day in, day out, like every week or every whatever it is, even just every month, it collapses the learning curve. So instead of spending 6 months or whatever your performance review cycle, or how great your manager is and how frequent he does this specific career-based meetings, spoiler, not many people do it like that frequently, but instead of spending basically 6 months guessing, you can course correct in a week or maybe in a month. And that makes a huge difference, because if you look at high performer, you're going to see that high performer, they build that on in their work. They engineer it in every day, in every activity they do. They don't wait for it. They actually engage, try to push it, and try to really get better day in, day out. And we want, again, everyone to get there. And there is a particular crew that we want to get there. They are the introverts. And those one are the ones that usually are moving volumes. People kind of know, but they don't have evidence and things like that. Really, when we built Branco, we were thinking about these people. We were thinking about everyone that today is underserved, and they have a huge dependency on their manager. So we try to really make the life of the manager and the life of the employee much, much easier by creating this automation and having really a 360 feedback that is there every single day, every single day. And your second question is why people underuse feedback. It is scary. It feels so personal. Some people, they assume no news is good news, and normally that is actually the bad recipe for bad surprises. It's very time consuming. So if you look at 360 feedback in regular scenarios, or even in an executive team of just leave it 6 people, 5 people, that could take a month almost. It's very, very time consuming if done the traditional way. And last but not least, I think it's because people tend to not keep their personal growth top of mind. So they only get feedback during annual review. They get feedback if something is wrong or if something is great. They get feedback if there is some event. And normally when this happens, it's a little bit too late, or you kind of wasted a large chunk of time.
Yeah, I think those are good points, and that segues into my next question, I guess, because it's really about mindset. I think, like, so during my HR career, I always believe that change is, always about mindset first, because you're sort of entrenched in a certain way of doing something, your belief system, whether they're sort of real or not, but also how you actually operate. And so if you want to change something, that starts with a mindset shift. So I'm just wondering, what holds people back from asking for feedback? And then how can someone start to change their mindset from, being defensive maybe to curious?
I go full on like Martin Luther King or Mandela on you. He said courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. I'm going to go that line. So I think we're wired to avoid discomfort, and the real candid feedback is like a threat. So you're absolutely correct. The shift happens when you stop seeing it as a verdict, when you stop seeing it as your performance review, but it's like the start of a data collection for you to get better. So, when you put curiosity there, it becomes very different, because the question doesn't say I 1 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 is, what am I missing to impact the team's specific objective? How can I impact it more? When do you see me exposing or not these particular behaviors that we talk about in our values, right? So when you kind of start going a little bit more narrow, more specific, first off, you reduce the emotional risk. So you're talking about facts, and that works for both parties, the reviewer and the person who's getting the feedback giver and the feedback receiver. And I think that also it's very interesting. What we observe with Branco is when it's a machine asking you a feedback about a person you work with, it makes it even easier because you know it's going to be anonymized. You know that it's going to be single tone. It's going to be reported like a reported would without revealing the source and without having the specific verbatim. But you know that what you're saying is going to be understood and translated in a structured way to help the person on the other side. And so this is where we come in with a structured weekly 360 feedback loop. We take the awkwardness out. It becomes kind of normal, expected, easy. Like there are people like, okay, this week it didn't ask me anything. Is it something wrong? And then as soon as it comes in, they're like, okay, let's go. And it takes like 3 minutes. So we actually spend a lot of time tuning it to make sure that we are frequent enough to provide at least 100 data points per person per year, but it's lightweight enough to not bother people. So it takes like 50 seconds to 3 minutes every week. And it's actually SPI, so the situation, behavior, and impact structure. So it pushes you to provide good feedback. It pushes you to provide actionable feedback. It asks you, what did you observe? What did you see? It doesn't ask you to rate. And we actually tested also on, a team that I'm very close to, so technical team, like engineering. And we all know that they don't really love this kind of thing usually. But I think we found a little way between the channel and the speed and the value that they get out of it. They are on it. So we see feedback loop completing in really the matter of minutes or hours from the moment they are triggered automatically from Branco. It's a very interesting behavior and it's very beautiful to see.
Yeah, well, first of all, I like the use of that quote, the first quote you were talking about, Nelson Mandela. So I've used that quote probably about 1,000,000 times in my life. So I resonate with it. But, I think it's really interesting. To your last point, it is a behavior change and a shift. And it's not easy. Like it really isn't. Because I think people in the Western world are conditioned that, they can't show any sign of weakness, I guess. And they view this type of thing as a form of weakness in a highly structured environment, which is kind of counterintuitive. But the data is there. If we can get past that and change that, I think it would be much better. So the next question is really about building habit. So what does it look like to build a repeatable, structured feedback habit? Are there specific questions or routines that help people get better quality feedback?
So that's I would say I would start from the opposite of it. So I will start with, hey, if the feedback is random, growth is random. If you don't have any system, and I'm not saying you have to have a tool, I'm saying about you have to have a behavioral system that is built and structured so that growth becomes inevitable. It becomes actually a process. I'm not a huge lover of process. That is, for me, I call it a system because it makes me a little bit less pushed over to another team that maybe takes care of processes. I think everyone needs to have their system, but the culture structures the systems and the culture structures the behaviors they want to achieve. So anyways, let's start it from the random. Random moments, don't cut it, right? It's not, that is the place where surprises happen. That's the place where you don't want to be. You want to think about this feedback like going to the gym, right? It's not that you buy the membership and then you never show up and gradually you become better. It's small repetition, constant, and frequent. And the most useful habit I found in feedback is actually the immediate micro feedback. So when there are like key moments, like a big meeting happens or something like that, you might leave like 24 hours, but then you need to get the feedback. You want to have it as immediate as possible. Don't write it down and wait for the next one-on-one or stuff like that. Weekly or monthly check-in with your manager or mentor, better if both. I think that those are actually meetings that you have to structure, that are not the one-on-one where you talk about what happened yesterday with the team. They are things about your growth. Okay, so very, very important is I used to have actually a separate meeting for career growth and then my one-on-one being two completely different settings because you want to be focused. And then I would say quarterly themes. So again, micro feedback, weekly, monthly check-in, and then quarterly themes, which is, hey, we want to deliberately improve X. And we just put a plan down to do that. And normally, when we build those habits, I like to focus on what I consider the 4 pillars of performance. So the first one is the GSD, or your impact on the team objectives. Like, how much are you bringing the team and make the team become better? And this one is interesting because it's probably one of the most important things, and you see it very infrequently in the regular performance review forums. The second one is skills. That is the one you see all the time. And I'm not going to talk about this because everyone knows it. Can you do your job? Can you do it well? The third one is the leadership competencies or behaviors. So how much do you fit the company? How we operate? How much do you expose the leadership behavior that make people in this company great? And then the fourth one, which is the one that is always kind of left on the side, is how much are you actually executing on your personal development plan? So for me, these 4 pillars are the habit that define top performance. If you can mix, what we have to achieve as a company, like get better at what you do, get better or fit the organization in the leadership that they want you to see in you, and then you work on your development plan day in, day out, that is actually what makes a huge difference. And interestingly enough, I'm going to do a little advertisement here. Like, Branco actually helps you to capture, organize all of this and automatically and act on this inside, so the loop never and ever breaks. It does 90% of the work of even aggregating the data, so you don't have to go and sniff through reviews and verbatim, etc. You actually have it done for you. And so what you do with Branco is you receive the feedback, you can review it. Branco drafts for you even the development plan. And it really drafts everything you need. But what you want to do is then you take it, you review it, you discuss it, you remove blocker, and you support the growth. So that is the part that I think I don't ever want to take any of that away from anyone. That is the most important piece. That is where we should actually focus the energies. So that's it.
Good. I have a follow-up question on something. You mentioned earlier, and I think I heard you correctly, where you said you separate performance or like in the job conversations with career conversation. Is that true? So is that right?
So I used to have in my direct, at least, I used to have a weekly or bi-weekly one-on-ones. And when you do one-on-ones, it normally, like, it tends to become something where you talk about, what is important for the business. And that's great. And that's needed. But you tend to, if you mix that one with career growth, I think that sometimes you get a fuzzy answer. So I used to do a monthly exceptional one-on-one. So weekly one-on-one on whatever it is the thing we want to discuss, but then a monthly career-based one. So are we working on a personal development plan? Are we doing the things we said to do? Are we moving the needle on this quarterly goal and things like that? So yeah, it's it actually, I used to have 2 different documents. It's like one document for one-on-one and one document for the career growth. And yes, it's a lot of time, but if you want to grow your people, it's kind of needed. And I don't know, that's what I find it working best.
It's a very interesting concept because I don't think there's any right way to do it, because I used to actually put them together, and in the document there would be 2 separate sections, but the idea behind it was that I wanted to get my employees to think about both the business but also their career. Not only does it benefit themselves, but it actually has a benefit to the organization too, right? So there was a bit of a dual thing. So I used to connect it, but I guess the point that I'm making here is that I don't think any correct way of doing it. I think it's just what's the best way for the organization or the people that are running it. Right? So.
Yeah. No, I agree. And also the frequency of the feedback, and probably how many direct reports you have as well. There are a lot of variables, I think, that go around that. But
Sure.
yeah, no, I would say this: you build the system, right? So you said, okay, we're gonna do it in the one-on-one. We're gonna have, if we have 1 hour, it's gonna be half an hour and half an hour. I built a different system, and it was like, okay, we're gonna do half an hour one-on-one, then we're gonna do once every 2-3 times. We're gonna do 1 hour adjust on career. I think that the key point here is you built it in, and you didn't leave it to the case. You didn't leave it to 6 months or a yearly performance. You actually built it inside the loop, and I think that is the key point.
Absolutely. Okay, so just my last question for you, because I want to get to turning insight into action. So once someone gets feedback, right,
Mm.
what should they do next? How can we turn feedback uh, into a growth plan instead of a moment of awkwardness, comfort? I think that's the hard part too. Is that all right? You've just had a conversation with your manager and you've gotten all this feedback. Now what?
Take action. I think that that's what the same way employee wants to see the organization do when they provide feedback. I think that for your growth and also for what other people are expecting is, hey, if I provide you feedback, it's not valuable because I said it. It's valuable because you do something about it. So I think that inside yourself is, hey, what are they trying to signal to me? Especially if the feedback is not solicited, is if it comes from someone else, it means that there is something that needs to be either corrected or done again. Depends how the feedback is, right? So what behavior is actually being described? If you're not clear on that, it's great to go back to the person and say, hey, look back and it's like, hey, this is what I heard. Here's what I'm gonna try next. Does that work? Is that what you wanted to say? And yeah, really clarifying. I think taking action, even if it's just a clarification, and then actually taking action to, improve whatever that is. If it was a positive feedback, yeah, do it again. And then I think that one part that many people fail is to track the progress, is to track this little action that you're doing to improve. And not just track it by yourself, but track it together. And again, I think that feedback is, I really see feedback as a loop. So feedback is the beginning of a loop that then you take action about, and then you get feedback on your action as well. So it's like you keep feeding this beast about, hey, I'm trying to get better, and maybe you break something else, right? And so it's always a little tuning that you need to do. And that's why actually we build it automatically. So we have this feedback loop that becomes structured data, feeds into a personal development plan, feeds into the one-on-one, feeds into the pre-drafted reviews and the pre-calibration. And basically, the action that we put into the personal development plan then become part of the feedback loop again. And so, and because it's 360, it's pretty fun because even the feedback was taken by A, you're going to get feedback on your action plan by also other people. And so it's very interesting when people know what you're working on and now you're tracking it and you're tracking it in the sunlight, right? It's not just something you're doing in the corner that no one knows. So yeah, that's what I say. What I would say is, yeah, take action and track the action and keep getting feedback on the action you're doing.
Yeah, I think the key thing there, I take away is that it needs to be documented. It needs to be visualized because I think, I don't know about you, but my memory is terrible, right? And I think most people's memories are terrible these days, right? And so if you ask someone, what did you talk about last week, and don't look at your notes, right? They're not going to be able to actually tell you exactly what's going on. So it needs to be documented in a constructive way, and it needs to be visual so that you can actually see what's going on. And so when you go back to it, it's obvious to what you talked about. Okay, if our viewers can learn just one thing about what we just talked about today, what is that one thing?
All right, I bring it back to the title. I think you can't control the speed or your growth, but feedback obsession is how you build a career instead of waiting for one. And while it's very true that a tool cannot improve your culture, you can't improve your culture with the wrong tools. That is also true. Build a system.
So, Stefano, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. For all of our viewers, you can check his company out at Branco.ai. I will put everything in the comment section of this episode. So they're based in Toronto. They're a startup. They are moving and shaking, and I do encourage you to check them out. So thanks for being here. So for all of our viewers, this is the Unmuted Podcast. My name is Jeff, your host, also the founder of ScaleHR. We have a brand new website coming very, very soon. And so this podcast is all about HR, talent, world of work, HR tech, AI, of course, leadership, and so on. And so all of our episodes live on our website, GoScaleHR.com, and YouTube as well. So please share your comment. We want to hear from you. And so, Stefano, thanks for being here.